Hi everyone, welcome back to topic 3 for this MOOC on Sustainable International Business and Startups. I'm Nattavud Pimpa from the College of Management at Mahidol University. We'll deliver this topic for you. That CSR, human rights issue, and business cooperation have been considered to be a matter dealt by companies and business worldwide. And it's not just a large companies. This is a matter for all forms and sides of business, including startups. In fact, if you refer to the United Nations guiding principles on business and human rights, which is the first corporate human rights responsibility initiative that was endorsed by the UN, states on Principle 14 that the responsibility to respect human rights applies to all enterprises, regardless of their size. So there is no particular related questions on whether it's only the work of big, large multinational corporation when it comes to human rights, because we know it's everyone's work. And tend to focus more this day on the due diligence and the supply chain and the value chain of business from all sides, that it tend to be related to human rights and its relationship with business. So let's start with the concept. When you think of startup is actually not as easy to explain, because we tend to think of smaller of 4-5 younger generation start a new firm and run business that has certain technological element into it. But if you think of certain aspect from the social science, and we tend to focus on a startup as a human institution designed to create a new product or service under conditions of extreme uncertainty. And also that service or product would be somewhat new and provide solution for existing problem. Clarify the size of the company does not really matter, right? So when you think of startup and the image of younger, smaller, and perhaps more flexible company, might be some truth element into that. Might be you think of Silicon Valley startup, or those in San Francisco or in Singapore or in Hong Kong, built into this kind of ecosystem where they are surrounded by seasoned investor and talented technical person, engineers who are capable of boosting a small company into a worldwide technology leaders. Right, that's true. There are several characteristics of startups that worth discussing before we go on to that. Well, first, characteristic of startup as in growth. Growth is one of the most important characteristics, which in fact, when you think of the company that starts small or smaller and decide to grow fast. So pretty much it's all about the vision of this the co-founder or the founder of the startup to disrupt the existing market with his or her own creative idea, and that idea has a potential ability to change or to disrupt the world, right? So these startup tend to focus on maximizing their growth, and in many cases it will end up that they focus solely on increasing customers and revenues without paying sufficient attention on other important issues. Aspect 2 is the relationship with the venture capitalists. If you think of, let's say, typical Silicon Valley startups, which are organizations that invest by VCs, venture capitalists, these venture capitalists retained strong controlling power over the startups based on their rights included in the investment contracts that are signed at the time of their investment in startups. Therefore, startups pay strong attention to the requests from venture capitalists, and this might have effect of forcing startups to focus on profitability and thus have negative impact on implementing the ESG framework, in particular human rights policies. Okay, that because the limited time span of ownership and the evaluation by profit aspect. Okay, VC tend to focus on limited terms of funding, and they must raise new funds every once in a while. So to raise new fund, VCs are competing against their industry peers based on fund performance, which is usually calculated by the so-called internal rate of return, or IRR. And the IRR itself can be the factor that limit the ability of startups to be in the sustainable business paradigm. And you think of risk-taking culture is another factor. As we understand that startup always involved with condition of extreme uncertainty. So in order to conquer the uncertainty, it is inevitable for startups to take some risks at some point. Therefore, they sometimes have an incentive to be aggressive in unsettled gray areas and take the risk of potentially violating rules and regulations. They may prefer to move forward and launch a new services with few unsolved issues remaining rather than lost business opportunity by spending too much time on evaluating risks and finding ways to avoid them.